I used to believe hard work spoke for itself, that if you put in the effort, treated people with respect, and stayed true to your principles, life would reward you. It's almost funny now, how naive that sounds. My name's Vanessa Clark, and for nearly 10 years I worked as a senior marketing executive at a major advertising firm in Chicago. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't ruthless, but I was good at what I did. My team respected me, clients trusted me, and for a while that was enough. Until she arrived. Her name was Claudia Winters, smart, stylish, and terrifyingly confident. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and instantly make you feel underdressed and overworked. When she joined the company, everyone whispered about her Ivy League degree, her connections, her charm. Even my boss, Martin, seemed fascinated. I tried not to care. I even helped her settle in. I introduced her to clients, shared presentation templates, even stayed late to help her prepare for her first pitch. She thanked me with that perfect smile of hers. "You're a lifesaver, Vanessa. I don't know how you do it all." If only I'd known how those words would come back to haunt me. At the time, my life outside work felt equally stable. I was married to Ethan, a financial analyst, grounded, funny, the kind of man who believed in long walks and shared silence. We weren't perfect, but we were partners. We built each other up. Or at least, I thought we did. A few months after Claudia joined, small things began to shift. Meetings I used to lead were suddenly jointly managed. Projects I'd built from scratch were revised under new creative direction. And every time I tried to talk to Martin about it, he brushed it off. "You and Claudia make a great team, Vanessa. Don't overthink it." But I did. I had to, because one afternoon I walked past Martin's office and heard laughter, hers and his, the kind that carried the sound of conspiracies wrapped in charm. Still, I tried to trust the process. I told myself, this is corporate life. Don't make enemies, stay focused. I didn't realize I already had one. The day the promotion list came out, I remember holding my breath. I'd been promised that role, director of creative strategy, for years. Martin had said as much. I'd led every major campaign, won 2 industry awards, and practically lived in the office. But when the email arrived, the name under the title wasn't mine. It was Claudia's. I thought it was a typo. I actually laughed. Until I saw her walking into the conference room, bouquet of flowers in hand, people clapping, Martin hugging her. That's when my laughter died. She gave a little speech. "I'm so honored. I couldn't have done this without the incredible support of my colleagues, especially Vanessa, who's been such an inspiration to me." The room clapped, and I stood there, smiling, frozen, humiliated, invisible. That's the thing about betrayal. It's quiet before it's cruel. I went home early that day. Ethan was already there. He poured me a glass of wine and said, "You're still the most talented person in that company. You'll get the next one." But there was something in his tone, a detachment, like he was comforting a stranger. Over the next few weeks, I noticed how often his phone buzzed, how quickly he'd tilt the screen away, how late he'd stay at work. At first, I blamed myself. I was distracted, bitter, emotionally absent. Maybe I'd pushed him away. Then one night, I saw it. A message on his phone, from her. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." I felt the world tilt. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the absurdity of it. The woman who stole my promotion had now stolen my husband. The confrontation that followed wasn't cinematic. It was quiet, ugly, human. He didn't even deny it. "It just happened," he said. "We didn't plan it." "You didn't stop it either," I whispered. He said she understood him, that she made him feel seen. And in that moment, I realized the people who crave attention the most are always drawn to those who can take it from others. He packed his things the next morning, and just like that, I lost both the life I built and the man I built it with. I stopped eating for days. I'd wake up, sit on the edge of the bed, and stare at the floor. The office was unbearable. Claudia walked around like she'd earned the world. Her laughter filled rooms that used to echo my ideas. One afternoon, she stopped by my desk. "No hard feelings, I hope," she said. "I really want us to stay professional." Professional, that word has never sounded so poisonous. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time I saw her clearly. Everything she was now standing on, every inch of her new power, was built from pieces of me. That's when I decided something quietly, fiercely, unshakably. If she wanted my life so badly, she could have the ashes, but I was going to build something she could never touch. And when I was done, she'd regret ever knowing my name. When you've lost everything, silence becomes your sharpest weapon. For weeks I stayed invisible at work. I said little, did less, and watched everything. Grief is exhausting, but it also clarifies things. It burns away distractions until all that's left is focus. The cold, surgical kind that doesn't just want to heal, but to understand. And what I understood, slowly, painfully, was this: Claudia had power because I gave it to her. I trained her. I introduced her to my clients. I let her use my kindness as a ladder. But ladders go both ways, up and down. And I was about to pull mine. In meetings, I stopped volunteering ideas. I let Claudia take the spotlight. She loved it, the attention, the praise. But what she didn't realize was that, without my input, her brilliance had an expiration date. I watched her flounder through technical details she didn't understand. I noticed the cracks when clients started questioning her direction. She would turn to me mid-meeting with a desperate glance, the same eyes that once looked smugly down on me. "Vanessa, could you add something here?" "Of course," I'd reply smoothly, rescuing her just enough to make her look competent, but never confident. You see, real revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about letting them destroy themselves, slowly, beautifully, inevitably. Outside work, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. Therapy helped. So did early morning runs. I'd jog through the quiet streets before sunrise, air biting my skin, my mind sharpening like glass. At first, I thought I was training to forget, but I realized I was training to win. Every step was a reminder, I'm still here. 3 months later, I started working on something of my own, not for the company, for me. I registered a small consulting agency, Clark Creative Studio, under my own name, just a side hustle at first. I didn't tell anyone at the office. I built it quietly, taking small freelance clients on weekends. What I didn't know yet was that one of those clients would become the match that lit everything on fire. It started when I got an email from a small wellness brand. They said they were referred by one of my old contacts from the firm. "We're looking for someone who understands authenticity, someone who doesn't just sell, but connects." That word, authenticity, hit me like a whisper from the universe. I said yes. For weeks, I worked in secret. Late nights, endless coffee, raw creativity. It reminded me of why I started in marketing in the first place, not for titles or office politics, but for impact. When the campaign launched, it went viral. The client tripled their traffic. Influencers picked it up. Major publications featured it. And guess what name was on the press release? Mine. The irony, that same client was one the firm had previously rejected under Claudia's leadership. When the news hit our industry circuit, I saw Martin's face turn pale during our Monday meeting. He didn't say anything, but his eyes flicked between me and Claudia like he was doing math he didn't want to admit. Claudia smiled through gritted teeth. "Wow, Vanessa, I didn't know you were still freelancing." "Just something small," I said, sipping my coffee. "You know how it is, sometimes clients want a more personal touch." She didn't respond, but I saw the muscle in her jaw twitch. Ethan, on the other hand, had started reaching out again. First, small texts. "Hope you're okay." Then longer ones. "I miss our conversations." I ignored them, until one day curiosity won. I answered. He told me things weren't going well with Claudia. That she was different now, cold, controlling, obsessed with appearances. "She keeps comparing herself to you," he said. "Good," I replied softly. "That must be exhausting." He laughed awkwardly. Vanessa, I made a mistake. I should have. Stop, I cut him off. You didn't make a mistake, Ethan. You made a choice, and I'm making mine. He didn't text again after that. But something told me that wasn't the last time I'd hear from him. 2 weeks later, Martin called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, like a man forced to eat his own pride. Vanessa, he said slowly, I've been reevaluating the team structure. I think we may have overlooked your leadership potential. I almost smiled. Overlooked, I repeated. That's one way to put it. He cleared his throat. We're bringing in a new corporate partnership, and I'd like you to lead the pitch. It's an important client, national scale. And then he said the words that nearly made me laugh out loud. You'll be working closely with Claudia. Of course, the universe has a dark sense of humor. That project was where everything changed. Claudia assumed she'd lead. After all, she was still technically my superior. But as we began the pitch, her ideas fell apart. She hadn't done the research. Her concepts were hollow. Meanwhile, I'd prepared a comprehensive strategy, detailed, visionary, bulletproof. I didn't have to humiliate her. The contrast did it for me. The client chose my proposal, unanimously. They even requested that I personally oversee execution, not the team. Martin had no choice but to reassign Claudia to a lesser role. And for the first time in months, I saw her mask crack. You planned this, she hissed one evening after the meeting. No, I said calmly. I just stopped handing you my work. Her face went pale. You think you're better than me? She spat. No, I said, turning away. I just stopped pretending we were the same. That night, I sat in my car outside the office, breathing deeply. It wasn't over, not yet. But for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. The kind that doesn't come from forgiveness, but from power regained. There's a strange kind of calm that follows victory, especially when no one realizes it's happening yet. By the time our big project ended, I had become indispensable again. Clients requested me by name. Executives started dropping by my office for advice. Even Martin, once so quick to overlook me, now included me in every high-level conversation. And Claudia, she was still smiling, but the smile was cracking. Her eyes darted more. Her voice trembled in meetings. She was trying to hold on to the image she'd built, the golden woman who could do no wrong, but that kind of perfection doesn't survive pressure. And I was quietly applying just enough of it to make her crumble. She started missing deadlines. Clients complained that her follow-ups were sloppy. Once, she even reused an old pitch deck, and a junior designer called her out on it, right in front of Martin. I didn't have to lift a finger. Her ego was doing my work for me. But I wanted something more, not just professional downfall, clarity. I wanted her to understand what it felt like to lose something irreplaceable. It happened one Friday afternoon. We were all called into the conference room for an emergency meeting. Martin looked grim. We've just been informed that our biggest client, Beacon Retail Group, is terminating their contract. Gasps, murmurs, confusion. Then he looked straight at Claudia. Apparently, they were promised a set of deliverables that don't exist. Care to explain, Claudia? She froze. That's impossible. I personally handled. That's the problem, Martin cut in sharply. You personally handled it without clearance. I knew exactly what this was. Weeks earlier, I'd found emails showing she'd made unsanctioned promises to Beacon, using confidential projections she'd stolen from my earlier campaign. I didn't leak them directly. I just made sure the right people noticed. She turned to me, eyes wide, terrified. Vanessa, you know I didn't. I met her gaze steadily. I know you did your best, I said softly. That silence afterward, that thick, echoing, heavy silence, was the sound of a career ending. Within days, Claudia was under review, her projects reassigned, her reputation gutted. Rumors spread fast. People whispered words like unethical and unreliable. But I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. because life and karma wasn't finished weaving its threads. I hadn't heard from him in months, but one night my phone lit up again. "Vanessa, please, I need to see you." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him in a small cafe near my apartment. He looked older, not physically but emotionally, the kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep but from living with regret. "She's gone," he said quietly. "Claudia, she got fired. It's been a disaster. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, sipping my coffee. "You don't sound sorry," he muttered. I replied, 2 years ago." He exhaled shakily. "Vanessa, you don't understand. She's saying I ruined her life, that I was the reason she took those risks at work. She's blaming me." I tilted my head. "Maybe she's right. You've always been good at inspiring bad decisions." His eyes flicked up, pain, recognition, shame. "You really hate me, don't you?" "No," I said. "I just finally stopped loving you." He told me he was struggling, that he'd left his job, that Claudia had drained him financially and emotionally. He wanted a fresh start. I didn't laugh, but it took everything in me not to. Here he was, the man who walked out on me like I was replaceable, now standing in front of me, asking for sympathy like I still owed him something. "I just thought maybe we could try again," he said softly. I leaned back, studying him, really studying him. He looked smaller somehow, like a chapter that had already been closed. "Ethan," I said gently, "the only thing we could try again is coffee, and even that's stretching it." I thought that was the end of it, but karma wasn't done twisting the knife. A week later, I got a message from HR. "Vanessa, there's someone here to see you. Says she's requesting an interview." When I stepped into the lobby, I froze. It was Claudia. She looked nothing like the woman who once strutted through the office in designer heels. Her confidence had evaporated. Her clothes looked too formal, too forced. Her eyes, once sharp and calculating, were tired. "Vanessa," she said softly, almost pleading. "I didn't know it was your department. I applied for the open communications position. I just need a chance." For a second, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered the look on her face the day she thanked me for helping her succeed. I remembered standing alone in my kitchen, reading her messages to my husband. And the pity vanished. "Claudia," I said, my tone calm, professional, steady. "We're looking for candidates with integrity. It's not a skill we can teach." Her lip trembled. "You think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said quietly. "It just makes me free." I turned and walked away. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment, the weight of everything hit me. I had won, not through cruelty, not through chaos, but through patience. And as strange as it sounds, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt peaceful. Because revenge, at its core, isn't about watching someone fall. It's about standing tall after they tried to bury you. Months later, my company named me Vice President of Strategy, a title Claudia once dreamed of. Ethan sent a text the day the announcement went public. "Proud of you." I didn't reply. Some messages don't deserve answers. People often ask me how I did it, how I survived being betrayed, humiliated, and replaced, and the truth is simple. I didn't just survive, I evolved. Claudia stole my promotion and my husband, but I took something she never could, my peace, my power, and my story. And that's worth more than anything she ever had. There's something strange about success. When you finally get what you fought for, the peace, the respect, the power, it doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives quietly, like a sunrise you didn't notice at first, until you realize the darkness is gone. That's how it felt after everything. The meetings, the heartbreak, the whispered gossip, all of it slowly faded into background noise, and for the first time in years, I could breathe. It comes from walking away, when winning no longer matters. When Claudia left my office that day, humiliated and begging for another chance, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt something deeper, release. Because she was no longer my enemy. She was a mirror of who I used to be, desperate for approval, blinded by ambition, willing to bend for people who never intended to stand beside me. And the moment I recognized that, I let her go, not for her, but for me. I started going home before dark again. I started cooking, sleeping, laughing. Small things I'd forgotten how to do when my life revolved around proving my worth. One night, I was cleaning out old boxes when I found the photo, the one from that team celebration years ago, the three of us, me, Ethan, and Claudia. I almost didn't recognize myself. I looked younger, yes, but also emptier, smiling for the camera, unaware that the people beside me would soon break my world apart. I held that photo for a long time, then quietly tore it in half, not out of anger, out of closure. Because that woman, the one smiling for approval, didn't exist anymore. Our company was featured in a national business magazine, and there, under the section titled, "The Woman Who Rebuilt Trust in a Broken Firm," was my photo. The same face that once watched her world crumble, now being recognized for rebuilding it. When the article came out, my inbox flooded with messages, some from strangers, others from people I hadn't heard from in years, old colleagues, university friends, even my ex-boss, Martin. But one message stood out. It was from Claudia. "Vanessa, I read your story. Congratulations, you deserve it. I won't lie, seeing where you are now hurts, but I also see why it had to happen that way. I hope someday I can rebuild myself too." I stared at that message for a long time, then I typed 2 words. "You will." And for the first time, I actually meant it. He reached out on my birthday, said he saw the article too, wanted to catch up. I agreed, out of curiosity more than anything. He looked lost, like someone still chasing versions of himself that didn't exist anymore. "You really made it," he said, half smiling. "Guess I was the fool after all." I didn't correct him, he already knew. We talked for a bit, polite, detached, until he finally said, "I miss how simple things used to be." I looked at him and smiled. "They were never simple, Ethan. We were just pretending." That was the last time I saw him. And my answer is always the same. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about restoration. It's about taking back what someone tried to steal, your confidence, your peace, your dignity, and building something stronger from it. Claudia thought success was about winning over people. Ethan thought love was about convenience. But I learned that real power is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just shows up, day after day, choosing growth over bitterness. One evening, after a long day at work, I stayed back to watch the city lights from my office window. The skyline shimmered, the same one I used to stare at through tears, wondering if I'd ever belong again. Now it felt like mine. And I realized something. I didn't need to make anyone pay. I just needed to make myself proud. That was the real victory. To anyone listening, if you've ever been betrayed, overlooked, or replaced, hear me clearly. You don't have to fight dirty to rise again. You just have to stay standing when the storm passes. Let them underestimate you. Let them walk away. Because one day they'll look back and realize you were the story all along. Broken heart, she stole my promotion. Ring, she stole my husband. But I took something far more permanent, my peace, my purpose, and my power. And that's a kind of revenge no one can ever undo.